Hey peeps, welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about LE and prepatch and a few changes that are happening. I already made a video talking about all the changes going from Wrath of the Lich King into Cataclysm, but the prepatch will also be a little bit of a different story. Now let's talk about the obvious thing, the stuff you get when you select Elemental Shaman. First up, we get our Thunderstorm ability for free at level 10. We get Elemental Fury, which basically just increases the critical strike damage by 100%, and very importantly, removes the cooldown from your Chain Lightning. Meaning, in pre-patch, you can use Chain Lightning as much as you want. It's actually very amazing on Glyph fights, where we also will be getting a Glyph that makes Chain Lightning hit up to 5 targets. So on Sauerfang, this actually could be quite insane because you're just obliterating the adds. Next up on the list will be Elemental Overload. And you might be wondering, okay, we already had that in our talents, you know, a 33% chance to proc a second spell doing 50% of the damage. Now it's something called Mastery. Every spec has a different mastery, and for us it's just Elemental Overload. Important notice is that it now includes Lava Burst, but it does start at 16% baseline. So you have a 16% chance to overload, meaning you want to have a lot of mastery because each point of mastery increases the chance of elemental overload by an additional 2%. So in pre-patch, there's something called reforging, where you could take a stat of an item and reforge it into another stat for, I think it's about 60% of the value. So you're not getting one-to-one conversion, but getting a lot of mastery in pre-patch will be important because this will be doing a lot of your damage with a double Lava Burst cast, especially with the new talents, which give you resets on Lava Burst. And importantly to notice is that elemental overload will now be doing 75% of the spell's damage instead of 50. Now let's talk about the talents in pre-patch. So in the first row, I'm taking everything. The middle talent points you can put anywhere you really want, because the middle talent only gives you 10% mana reduction. These two talents you can actually put into reducing your shock spells, you can also put them into reducing damage taken. What you can also do is put 1 point of that into Earthquake and the other point you can just leave in the mana reduction. The reason why I'm not really taking Earthquake is because it won't be as useful on many fights. You can precast it on Sauerfang or Lich King for a little bit of extra damage, and you can technically use it in Ruby Sanctum. When you move through the boss with the Comet, you can use Spirit Walker's Grace and cast Earthquake while moving, which will be hitting all the adds. The spell power ratio on that spell just isn't that great, and especially with a 2.5 second cast with a spell that's lasting 10 seconds, it takes a lot of time for the damage to go off really, and the adds will die super quick in pre-patch, and they are already dying really quickly. Then another very important thing is Elemental Precision, which we already had, but now it also grants you spell hit equal to 3% of any spirit gains from the items or effect. So we get spirit into hit, meaning this is going to be super good for us to actually use spirit for once when we had no interaction with it for so many expansions. So in pre-patch, since we're also losing the Boomkin and Shadow Priest debuff of the 3% hit, this is coming quite in handy. MP5 in pre-patch will transform into Spirit, so you can pick up the Healer Ring from Ruby Sanctum, you can use the Lady Death Whisper boots, I'm pretty sure, which are male, who also have MP5 on them, but you obviously will have Spirit in pre-patch to get a little bit of extra hit. We will talk about a set that Sated from the Elemental Shaman Discord put together. It's not quite done yet, but it's something that we can look to basically to have a little bit of an idea what to use. Now, very importantly is Rolling Thunder and Fulmination. Obviously, those two talents are quite amazing. We get mana back, Lightning Shield charges, and we will use Earth Shock with these Lightning Shield charges. So another spell in our rotation. Elemental Mastery is getting changed. You actually have a damage cooldown now on a 3-minute cooldown. We have Feedback, which is our talent that's basically our ICC2 set, but with 3 seconds. And also shortly talking about the ICC set, we are getting an ICC2 set nerf. Instead of 2 seconds per lightning bolt and chain lightning, it will be 1 second. You can actually go on the Wowhead Cataclysm database and type in our tier set, and you can see that it's only 1 second. So we are getting a little nerf, but so are other specs. Then we have Lava Surge, which gives your Flame Shock periodic damage ticks a 20% chance to reset the cooldown of your Lava Burst spell. So multi-dotting also with the Glyph of Flame Shock will be super easy because it increases the duration of Flame Shock by 50%. So you get a lot of resets on your Lava Burst cooldown, which is why I said you will need Elemental Overload to have a lot of mastery points, since you want to have as much overload percent chance as you can with getting Lava Burst resets. Then in the second talent tree, we're going to the Enhancement Shamans with the Elemental Weapons, which just increases the passive bonus of Flame Tongue Weapon. And then we want to put our last 3 points into Improved Shields, just due to the fact that this gives you a 15% damage increase on the Lightning Shield orbs, which obviously interacts with Fulmination and Earthshock. This is basically all we can take. We can only have 36 talent points in pre-patch, and then once you level from 80 to 85, you will get 5 more talent points. The reason why we have less talent points is simply because the talent trees got smaller, and you only get 1 talent point every second level from level 12 until 80, and then like I said, you get 5 talent points from 80 to 85. Now let's talk about the glyphs. They aren't adding new glyphs, but rather reworking the old ones. Lava Burst gives you just 10% more damage to Lava Burst instead of 10% more scaling of spell power. Lightning Bolt unfortunately is staying at 4% for some odd reason. Flame Shock gives you a 50% increased duration on Flame Shock. Chain Lightning now hits 5 people instead of 3. It used to obviously be 4 with the glyph, and the initial damage of Chain Lightning hit will be reduced by 10% with that glyph. We could also get the Unleashed Lightning glyph, pretty sure in pre-patch, because it only requires Inscription 385, and the reagents that you need are from Wrath of the Lich King, so we will be able to move and cast in pre-patch. Now let's talk about the playstyle in pre-patch. You still want to do Lightning Bolt on single target, keeping up your Flame Shock and using Lava Burst whenever it's available, which obviously will be way more available now due to the fact that you get the reset. Additionally, now you want to use Lightning Shield over Water Shield because you have the Rolling Thunder and Fulmination talent. Every single time you have 9 stacks of Lightning Shield, you want to use Earthshock on the target, which is basically like a big hitting spell now, so we're no longer ignoring that, and it's an additional thing that gets added to our rotation. One important thing I forgot to tell you about is the talent called Totemic Wrath. Any fire talent now increases the spell power of parties and raid members within 100 yards by 10%. This is the same buff as Demo provides, so you can use any fire totem and still provide the raid buff. That is quite important, obviously. You still want to use your fire ally, preferably with snapshots. You have to keep in mind the fight lengths are very short already, so trying to snapshot your fire ally with the highest spell power but only getting 15 seconds or 20 seconds uptime might be less value than just using it off the rip and getting a 45-second to 1 minute uptime. Now let's talk about the gear set that you're most likely going to be using in pre-patch. First up, you still want to use your force set, of course, very important. You will be using mostly mail anyway because you were only using the off piece on your bracers, your boots, and technically your belt if you are using the ICC belt still. So what you want to do is either have the Blood Queen's Crimson Choker, which you can reforge the Critical Strike into Mastery or Spirit if needed. You can obviously still use the Hit Neck as well if you have nothing else that you can use. For the bracers, you want to go back to the ICC bracers just due to the fact that they are mail. So I wouldn't even go out and get the leather or cloth bracers from Ruby Sanctum anymore because it won't be that useful. For the belt, obviously you want to be using the 25-man heroic Ruby Sanctum belt, and for the boots you have a few options. So first up, the best option would be the Boots of Divided Being, which basically come from Halion 10-man heroic, which no one is really doing. So the second options could be the crafted boots called Earth Soul boots, but you can also go the boots from Lady Death Whisper, which are item level 277 with a blue and red socket, so that's actually fine because blue sockets, you know, spell power and spirit won't be that bad for us. Then you also have the 41 mana per 5, which we get transferred into Spirit, which gives us hit. So they are quite a good pickup. I would recommend getting them because no one really wants them anyway. So it's really easy to obtain. Now for the rings, the best option obviously would be the 25-man healer ring, which gives you spirit equals to hit. If you can't get it, you can still be using the Valana's other signet ring, which gives you hit, haste, and spell power. Obviously, you can also use the Loop of Endless Labyrinth because it gives you 52 hit, which is a little more, and you can reforge the Critical Strike into something else. Then for trinkets, it's not really changing at all. You use Phylactery and the Charred Twilight Scale. Especially the scale will be very useful for pre-patch or even now because not needing to wait to have your DFO stacked is very, very good. You can immediately shoot out your Fire Ally with a decent amount of spell power without losing a lot of uptime. That's basically all the changes, and if you don't know, you want to rock a full mail set because in pre-patch you're getting 5% main stat, which will be intellect, if you're wearing your respective armor type, which for obviously paladins will be plate, for us it will be mail, and so on. So it is very important to do so. So, you know, make sure you are working on a full mail set, otherwise you're losing out on a lot of free damage. And I want to say again that this list is not the go-to best option. This is a good set that gets you to hit cap. Obviously with the gem changes that are going into place, spell power going to intellect, and who knows what other ratios change with all the gems. You will be using a lot of spirit gems, maybe instead of using a hit piece or something along the lines, so you can use a different piece. Totally possible. Also, you have to keep in mind that if you are Alliance and you are a Space Goat, you get 1% hit for free, so you have less of a worry in pre-patch as well. This is just a helpful guideline. This is everything I can give you for today. If there's any updates, obviously I will make an updated video. If you cannot get a full mail set, don't worry, it's also just pre-patch, so if you are not immediately gaining the 5% stat bonus, it's not the end of the world. This is me for now though, so see you in the next video. Bye bye.